Today is Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. It is 8:30 a.m. We are in Commission chambers, and I call the City Commission workshop meeting to order. Commissioners present are Commissioner McDowell, Commissioner Stokes, myself, Mayor Langdon, Vice Mayor White, Commissioner Emmerich. There is a quorum present for this meeting. Also present are City Manager Fletcher, City Attorney Slayton, Assistant City Clerk Gianelli, Recording Secretary Powell, Police Chief Garrison, good to see you, sir, and Deputy Fire Chief Herlihy. I'm always tempted to call you Herlithy, just as a joke. Elisa Herman, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Assistant City Clerk, are there any online public comments?
We do not.
And I don't see any in-house, so we'll move right along to general business. Item number 23-0347, discussion regarding the fiscal year 2023-24 budget assumptions, projections, and priorities. City Manager, this one's yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you all for being here. I'll give the presentation from here, then I'll sit down front with the team so we can answer your questions. But first of all, I want to welcome you to the budget of 23-24. This is going to be a good budget process for many reasons. I think it'll be a little bit different than the one we had last year. I think you'll see some of the processes that we had last year that worked sort of repeat themselves. We always want to get better and do better, and we believe that last year we had a good, transparent, and inclusive process, so we want to keep that going. And we know that as we go through the process and we go through the multiple meetings, whether they're in person like workshops like these, or if they're one-on-ones, or if they're commission meetings, there's going to be a lot of discussion that will occur regarding this budget. I do believe that this year, as we can talk about more in detail, we are at a sort of a pivotal time in our city's history. Last year, if you recall, we sort of looked at the budget from the snapshot of, well, what did we need to do in order to prepare for this year that we are currently in? And, you know, that was based on everything that we knew at the time and the economy and inflation, and, you know, everything was not well. And I can say that since that year or that time has passed, things have not improved, but maybe marginally. So now we are going to still have some more difficult conversations, but we are going to have to push ourselves to look a little bit further out than just the year that we're talking about. The decisions that we have to make and the choices that we need to discuss are multiple year decisions. We're at the point now when we talk about the police headquarters, we talk about water control structures. These are conversations where we've talked about maybe the need to have a bond referendum of how to pay for these items. We've had conversations regarding keeping the millage rate flat, because we know that the citizens are going through just as many challenges as the city and our staff are ourselves. So having that sort of concern and care for our residents is important as we have these conversations. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to have some conversations, and we're going to make sure that we ask some questions. You have questions, Commissioner? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were raising your finger. All right. But I'm going to jump right into it. First of all, we want to show you the actual changes in the fund balance in the 3-year review. And what we want you to notice and recognize here is that you see all of the fund balances sort of increasing for the most part year over year. Once again, that goes to show to the financial decisions that you've made and the capacity of your team in order to make sure that we are always prepared for the disasters that we know are looming for when they come. And we know that one came. You know, we can't get through this budget process without talking about Hurricane Ian. And we're going to see some of the impacts of that on our fund balances here upcoming. But for the most part, we want you to know that we were in a position to be successful, and that was not by accident. And when you see it happen year over year, you see the continuation of good budgeting, good fiscal responsibility, and the processes that your team has prepared you for. When you look at the fiscal year 23 fund balance analysis, here we look at the general fund having a projected available fund balance of $5 million. Road and drainage is in the negative, and that's due to the budget amendment that you've seen earlier that helped us pay for the debris management coming from Hurricane Ian. We do want to make sure that we stress the point of still being able to working towards providing you a snapshot that shows you exactly how the cash flow works out now that we had to pay out that 40 some odd $million, and knowing that we're still not done paying for it, but we are in a good financial position to receive those expenses and make sure that we can pay for them without sort of missing a beat from our daily operations. And that is what you want from your government. That's where you want your team to be. And that is the best position. If we were in a different position, we'd be having a different conversation about not being able to financially move forward, which would be a bad spot for us to be in. But once again, I believe this finance team has done a great job and received another distinguished outstanding budget award, which shows to their competence and their commitment to make sure that our financial position is solid today and going forward. The general fund ad valorem assumptions, the taxable value estimated increase of 5%. We don't have to say this, but I'll say this anyway. You can imagine that we're on the more conservative side as we project our revenues. We're never going to be aggressive in our revenue projections because that's just not smart. But as we know that, and we talk about the budget ad valorem revenue at 96.5% and the additional $1.3 million that would bring in, these are very conservative numbers, and they're very sort of average and par for what we're doing. You might remember last year we received an extra infusion based on the unexpected values of our homes that came in. We do not believe and should not believe that that should duplicate itself this year. That was more of a 1 year sort of situation. We know the housing market and what has happened not only in our community but in the country has sort of is balancing itself out. The super increases are not there as they were in the past, and that is not something you would ever budget for. But if some of it happens more this year that helps us over the projection that we have, that's great. If not, we'll be prepared by making some of the choices and decisions that we're going to talk about for our budgeting process. The next few slides you have seen before, and they do sort of a comparison that shows you how our millage rate compares over several scenarios, which will lead to the final slide, which is probably the most telling slide. But this slide right here of the local municipalities and counties shows that the effective millage rate per $1,000 is 6.3461 for Northport, which puts us right there, probably in the middle of all the other municipalities of where we are surrounded by at this point. When you look at the 2022 taxable values, you will see that Northport is $7.257 million. And this goes to show what we're trying to do as we talk about building up our commercial and our value in this city. The more that we can do that and the more that we can increase that rate, the more that we can help lessen the burden from our taxpayers. The local municipalities only taxable value shows a bigger picture of how really far away we are from the city of Sarasota as they are more developed and built out. When you look at their commercial development and you look at where we want to go, this is not to say, and I don't want anyone to mistake the statement to say that we want to be like the city of Sarasota. What we want is to keep our character and our culture and make sure that we still offset that through the growth that we're experiencing now, and we just responsibly continue to grow forward. Local municipalities and counties for the per capita revenue estimate based off effective millage rate. This is where you start to see where our millage rate is lower on the lower end of the scale. And we all have had the conversations, and you should be very proud of being able to keep a flat millage rate over the last couple of years. And as far as we all know right now, that is our goal for this year as well. But the future years are something that we need to discuss because there's very little chance that we can grow in the way that we need to as far as infrastructure and city-wise if we're going to stay where we are on this scale. We really need to come closer to the median, which would have a conversation of how do you want to grow the millage rate? How fast do you want to grow it? What does it look like? And knowing that everything that our city has gone through to recover from the hurricane, if we are to have those conversations in the future, it's best to begin them in a year like this year where you are still saying you don't want to raise them so there's no surprises in the upcoming years. It's just a conversation. As you are very well aware, No one has made any decision about any millage rate increases in the future. That is up to you as a board solely. We only make recommendations on what we think is in the best interest going forward. This slide right here, you look at, you will see local municipalities and counties per capita revenue estimate based on the adopted millage rate. Once again, you see that we're down at $334. We just need to just consider if this is where we want to be. Do we want to stay here? Or what does it mean for us to grow? How fast would you like to grow? What is the expected revenue increases if we grow? What will we do with those funds? All of those questions are good questions and hopefully ones that you'll want to know the answers to as we continue to move forward. When you look at all of our funds, we utilize a factor growth of 3.5% salary growth. And that's based on the range of how employees are rated, as well as our contracts with our unions and external partners. I think it's safe to say that as we talk about everything that this city continues to go through, the salaries have been hard for us to recruit some positions. It's been hard for us to maintain some positions. That's not a reflection of us as a team. And I don't believe that's a reflection of you as a board. It's just a reflection of the times that we're in. And we know that other municipalities are raising theirs in order to attract people. And you all have been very graceful to allow us to have that same flexibility to retain some of the staff that we need. It's just a process. And I believe that right now, we are doing very well in the process as well as we can, and we are making this city a very attractive place to be, not only with the salaries that we offer, but the benefit packages as well. When we hear people talk about, well, they're paying more in this city and they're paying more in that county, we really need to make sure that we're looking at the compensation package, not just the salary. That's not really a fair way to view it. But from our standpoint, we want to make sure that we just look at the holistic picture. The salary growth of 2.5% for the cost of living adjustment or the COLA existing, and the level of service and personnel have been included in all of our funds, as well as the cost impact associated with capital projects. Some general fund key changes for this upcoming year to be considered are the merit and union increases to salaries. I believe that we all remember, those of us who are old enough, where a few years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, where local governments put freezes on their salary increases. I do not see that hopefully as an option for not only our city, but the ones around us, because that would just sort of drive our ability to recruit, off a cliff, so to speak. But in order for us to do that, in order for us to keep making sure that we compensate people properly, we have to be more balanced and more aware of our expenses and how we are going to manage those. How are we looking at those? The initiatives that we talk about that we would love to do as a city, this is a year where I'm saying that we might need to wrap our arms around exactly what it is that we have, the growth that we have right now, and how do we make sure that we take care of that growth as opposed to growing new programs, which is sort of always the mantra of what we're doing. There's not to say that we can't have any new initiatives or new programs. We just need to be careful and mindful, especially as they relate to how you're ranking your priorities. You met with your consultant, Doug Thomas, a couple of weeks ago, and we know that he's about to send back to you information so you can prioritize your priorities. And then that will help us show and shape where we want to put our funding at. And as we construct your budget, we will put that input into it. And then that will help you come back to some decisions later in the budget cycle. The CPI adjustment of 2.5% we talked about. Health insurance, the $1 million, that is a estimate based on what our third-party vendor gave us at the time. Hopefully that number will be on the little higher side, and it'll come down a little bit closer to maybe 8 or 9, 10% growth, which is typical, I believe, for us over the last couple of years. It starts off high, it comes down lower when we get closer to knowing more of the actual information. The operating costs of inflationary increase, that is strictly based on the inflation that the country, like I said, is going through, and we have to allow for that in our calculations. When you see this chart and you look at what's happening, we have to remember that the majority of our costs from the city is personnel. So when we know that and you see that, that's why that's the largest number there. But we as a team and a city are going to make sure that we go through and scrub our expenses to see how we can offset some of this. This has to be an exercise from all angles this year. Not that it's not an exercise from all angles every year, but as we look at the revenue and we look at the picture that we're responsible for, we've got to be able to say, what did you do as a city in order to lower the things that were within your control? Don't just point the finger at everything that's outside of your control and ask for more. Yes, we're in a good position having to recover from a hurricane, but still, we still need to make sure that we do the best that we can. When you see the communications reorganization, that's a part of a process where we've centralized communications. They were out in the field, so to speak, in various departments, utilities, NDS, Public Works. And what we did, and you will see that sort of balance itself out over a year-to-year change. But in the first year, what you're seeing is people coming in under our communications leadership, which is Jason Bartolone, as opposed to them being decentralized and being in different departments. The value of that is a more concerted effort that allows our people to serve more departments better. When you have different roles and you have subject matter experts that are specialized in whether it's media, media specialists, social media, marketing and branding, it's easier when you have a consistent group together as opposed to having people that are decentralized. We do have a couple of decentralized models in this particular city. One is communications. Another one is our business managers, which we're trying to work on that one as well. For a city of this size, you would typically have 4 or 5 business analysts, and they would be responsible for multiple departments. But here we have morphed into a model that has business managers everywhere, and they report directly through the departments as opposed through our finance team. And one of our conversations that we're having there is if that's the model we're going to keep, because it is a heavy lift to change that model, we still have to have the accountability back to our finance team because we do have one pot of money and we do have one owner for that one pot of money, and that's our finance team. We talked about the commission priorities. These are ones, again, that the consultant, Mr. Thomas, has walked us through. The desire to add another pillar of emergency management, I think relief and recovery, was the one that was being considered. Again, the value of that one added to this one is just to make sure we don't lose sight of the unexpected challenges that we have to go through, and not only specific to Hurricane Ian, but what also might come our way this year. The good thing is regarding if there is another hurricane event of that size this year, we're still financially prepared for it, and we are able to still make sure we keep the cash flow and the business operations of the cities going. But we don't want to do that every single year, let's be clear. We can't handle Hurricane Ian every single year. But again, you were in a good position based on your reserves and your thresholds, so it has to be commended that you were in a position to receive this actual emergency event. When you look at fiscal year 23 adopted by budget by pillars, you're going to see that the infrastructure of 44%, the safe community of 29% are the leading pillars. And that's no surprise, knowing that public safety and how we staff and make sure that our city is protected and lives are being able to be responded to when they're in danger is of the utmost priority. You are going to see when we talk about low personnel requests for this fiscal year, the growth that we need to maintain in our public safety departments as it relates to the growth of the city is very important to keep those ratios in alignment. You remember we added 40 to 45 to 50 positions last year, and we said that that would not happen again this year, and that will not happen again this year. The positions that we are considering adding this year, the majority of them are in enterprise funds where they are paid for and do not affect the general fund. And as you may recall, there is a upcoming budget amendment for our NDS department to keep up with the growth of all the things that's happening in our planning and permitting departments. And okay, again, it's paid out of a fund that's not the general fund. But again, those are changes that are directly related to the growth of the city that we have to keep up with. And we want to make sure that we keep a low growth profile on any new additional or any new growth. Our team, as they complete their budgets, they have been, we've been talking about this almost for like a year. I think we've been talking about it since last year when you gave us the positions that we needed to sort of right size us. We knew that this day would come. So when they paint the picture, and their job is to paint the picture of what they would like and what they need, we just have to be careful to recognize that it's not going to be a lot of addition this year. This is going to have to be a year where we do more with less or more with the same, um, outside of what I just mentioned regarding some of the positions that are funded elsewhere. And here you have on the fiscal year 23 adopted general fund budget, you look at the same thing where we're talking about safe community as 58%. You look at good governance of 21% out of the general fund. These are where your staffing come from. And the good governance, that's the one where that manages your government operations. We will make sure that we stay in alignment with what the direction and the budget guidance will be. But I also want you to look at economic development and growth management. That's one that you all spoke very highly of during the strategic session that you had recently. So if that number grows, and if I'm not mistaken, that number might have been half of that last year, and then you added positions and you gave resources to economic development. And Vinny and her team have done a great job of making sure that they keep going with those initiatives. And we are having a lot of progress and putting wins on the board, and you've seen it. We've been recognized and all of the achievements that our economic development team is doing. And they are doing a great job. And the quality of life, when you look at the 11%, we normally think of our Parks and Recs teams there, and we think about what they do and how they can actually support the initiatives that make people want to come here. Again, it's about managing the growth that we have. Let's not look at, say, let's taking things to a new and different level. This is a time to be retrospective and make sure that we're very thoughtful on how we want to move forward with how we actually spend in those departments. And again, that will be based on your priority rankings that you're going to do. And I anticipate Mr. Thomas having that information back to you, hopefully by the end of this week, but we'll follow up with him to see when that will come so that you can continue your ranking process. So considerations, just to sort of put some things out here for you to consider. The recovery efforts, you have to start there because that's the biggest financial impact to our organization this year. We've done well with it. You've seen the impact of it. You will see the new fund balances and what it means and how it will allow you to get a snapshot of where the starting point is. And once you see that starting point clear, you will be able to say, okay, how much are we willing to do and how are we willing to go forward in order to make sure that the hurricane recovery efforts are not forgotten or stalled in the process that we're going through. The flat millage rate, that is something I believe that is the direction that we're going to get from all of you. If we're wrong, then tell us now, but I would believe that we would aim to keep it flat this year and talk about, well, what does that mean in next year and the next couple of years going forward? Because as I pointed out to you on the prior slide, if we do keep it flat forever, we're not going to be able to catch up with some of the growth that we need. And the millage rate is not the only way to catch up to that growth. We talked about impact fees, getting them to a certain point. We talked about the electricity tax, raising it up. You do have options. You do have areas where you are not at your maximum and what you can charge. And those are some of the decisions that you would like to sort of weigh in on to say, what does this look like or what does that scenario look like? And that's what we're here to do. The division to department conversions is one that we have talked about internally, where we have three or four divisions that rightfully should be departments based on the growth of the city. IT is one, communications is one, economic development is one, and then we are also exploring a scenario with our NDS team where normally there is a planning department and a building department is a separate department. Right now they are combined. If that were to work in the scenario that we envision, then we might sort of separate those departments, but there's consequences and there's processes to do all of those divisions to departments. And there's costs involved to doing those as well, because you're taking division managers and turning them into department heads. And we also only have a limited amount of senior leadership slots that are available through our financial system, state system, retirement system. Right now, I think there's 3. So we would bring to you during this budget process, what would it look like for us to change our communications division to a communications department, the IT division to an IT department, economic development, et cetera. We don't have enough slots to do it all. So we'll have to prioritize and bring a recommendation back to you. But the process itself is a very public process that you would have to consider. it has to be advertised. It has to go out to the public so that they can see exactly what we're doing. So we'll bring back the steps to the process. We'll bring back some recommendations, and we'll get your guidance. We believe that if we can do it in this year without creating an additional financial burden, but can sort of right size our team in a way that is reflective of the size of this city and the impact of the city, then that's the right thing to do. If it doesn't make sense, we wouldn't do it. But I believe that based on the conversations that I've had with our team, we believe that we could bring something and put a scenario in front of you that would allow you to make sure that we still can provide the best services for the citizens. The low new personnel request, that's just another reiteration of us not making sure that we do not ask for the same amount of people that we asked for last year. We do want to make sure that we're very conscious and aware of the positions that we're asking for this year. Low new initiatives, I said that a couple times. This is probably not the best year to say, let's shoot for the moon. It's really a good year to say, let's make sure that we can keep up with the growth that we're experiencing as the second fastest growing city in the country. I think that comes with a lot of responsibility, and I don't want to diminish that. And I think that the conversations that you'll have will be reflective of that and based on your priorities. The long-range financial planning, the police headquarters, the purchase of the land, the construction of the building, the water control structure replacement, these are some high-ticket items. These are items that I don't believe that we could afford as a city unless we actually go out for a bond referendum in 2024. And again, not my decision, only my recommendation, but the police headquarters, we know that they're needing to keep up with the size and the growth of the city. The only way for them to do that is to have a new facility that allows them to not only have a footprint and a presence here in where they're currently at, but maybe the satellite locations that can allow them to decrease their response times and get to incidents faster. You all have sort of heard that and seen that presentation, so I won't beat that one to death. And the water control structure replacement, if we go on our current pace of replacement, it's going to take multiple decades to get it all replaced. And if the hurricane showed us anything, it showed us that we need to make sure that we take care of our infrastructure in a way that is sooner rather than later. So that's our thought process of making sure that we're actually being very proactive in this time of saying, hey, what's going to happen next year? What's going to happen the year after that? And the year after that? We should really challenge ourselves to look at a Vision 2030 kind of model and say, paint a picture of what the next 5 years looks like. And then that way, when you make a decision, you can set a platform and a blueprint for next year and say, well, this is our starting point because this is what we agreed to the year before. And that way, we're not starting from scratch. And then that gives you a way to say, well, let's build on what we thought was going to happen the year before. And then you can actually then make the changes and the adjustments based on the new information from the current environment. I know that was a lot, but thank you for listening, and we appreciate it. But as you might remember from last year, we were excited last year for the budget process. We're equally excited this year. We're looking for your direction and your conversation, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have in order to get you to the answers you seek.
Thank you for that, City Manager. I'm going to run the questions in a similar vein as we did in the last workshop, which is 1 or 2 questions each, because I suspect all of us will have lots of questions and lots of comments, so I want to keep it moving. Okay, I am opening the floor to commissioner questions. No questions?
You want to go home?
I'm stunned. Okay, Commissioner Emmerich.
Yeah, I know about the PD and the monies on that, but do we have a money amount for the weirs at this time on how much we're looking to spend on all those weirs that need to be fixed?
Without Director Speed coming down, I would say the amount of the weirs to be fixed would exceed anything that you would most likely be comfortable with putting on a bond at one time. So most likely you would put a number like, say, $200 million on a bond that would get you X number of weirs done, and then maybe come back in the near future to do another tranche of them in order to get them. I don't believe, and Chuck, I might get you up on this. I don't believe that the amount of the total weirs would be something that would be digestible in one bite. We would have to sort of break it up.
All right, I just wanted a roundabout number. You know, if you're talking $500 million to do them all, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. But in the middle.
Good morning, Chuck Speak, Public Works Director. We are probably looking at 500 million to do them all at one time. What we were thinking was something a little smaller, take a piece, see how many structures we can conceivably do in a 10-year period, and then bond out that much, which may be between 100 to 150 million.
Okay, so you're gonna do it at 10 years a pop to
That's the intent.
replace all these. So roughly about 30 years in-ish?
Probably 20, because as we get further out, some of those are just straight fixed weirs, which
Okay.
are less expensive. So once we get through the actual water control structures, the weirs will go a little faster and at a less cost.
Yeah, I know the bigger automated ones are a lot more than the little drop structures, so
Yes, sir.
I just wanted a roundabout answer. Thank you. That's all I had for now, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this division to department conversion. Economic development has what, maybe 7 to 10 employees, and you want to make it a new department? And IT has probably 10 employees, and you want to make that its own department. I'm having a hard time understanding the logic and what the difference is between a division and a department, because when I hear department, police department, fire department, public works department, and I'm hearing, and those departments have hundreds of employees sometimes, depending on which one, in excess of like 75 on average. So these are small that you're looking to change to a department, and there is a cost involved in that, not only process, but the costs for each department. So I don't understand why.
Well, there's currently in our rules, there's no size limit on what dictates a division or a department. So when you look at the impact of the different divisions right now, I would challenge you to say our economic development division is just as strong as any department. These are divisions that affect our organization enterprise-wide. They're not divisions that are singular to one particular function. They impact everyone. Communications impacts everyone. Economic development impacts everyone. Our NDS, splitting it from one particular huge department into one that would have its own building department, is one that is very impactful as well. So not looking at it from a standpoint of number of employees, which there's no rhyme or reason based on our code to say that, yes, you have to have a minimum threshold. I would say that it's the impact of the divisions to the department that has changed over the course of time.
So what's the difference between a division and a department?
Right now, it's just the way that they're labeled. To me, you still have divisions that report directly to the city manager. You have departments that report directly to the city manager as well.
So what I'm hearing is the name division is going to change to department, but the functionality of the existing division is not going to change.
The functionality of the divisions are already operating in a department-like manner. They're just not recognized by it as such. You have division managers who are performing in the same function as department directors. And while you would think that that's an easy change to make it on paper, and like you said, there is the financial cost to it, and we'll bring that forward to you as we outline the process, it is relevant for those who are working in those divisions to be recognized for their impact as departments. Ideally, if it's something that I believe that should have been handled as the growth of this city and this staff has occurred, it is something that we believe that when we bring it to you, you will support it, but we're happy to answer questions that you might have as it relates to what are the offsets of keeping it the way that it is or expanding it in the way that is requested.
I'm not seeing much of a difference, except in change in title. That's basically what I'm seeing is change in title.
And we hope that you don't see a lot of difference, and that will allow you to approve the request for going from a division to a department. That's exactly what we want you to say.
But there
It's
is a difference though, city manager. To me, there is a difference. We have Public Works. Public Works is a huge department. We have one director of that huge department. They oversee solid waste, they oversee road and drainage, they oversee facilities. There's many different divisions within Public Works, and that's one director. And he is in charge, or she, depending on whoever's at the helm, is in
Right.
charge of multiple hundreds of employees. And now you're going to say that that director is functionally equal to a director that manages 10 or 15 employees. That's where I'm seeing the difference. So I have a feeling this will be future conversations, and I'm not seeing the benefit.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor White, you're up.
Yes, thanks. I just need a little refresher course here. We're not really getting into the nuts and bolts here. Like we talked about having a natural resource manager that's been thrown out there. This is not time to do that.
This is your time, Madam Vice Mayor. I would say, yes, this is the time to talk about that. So we've talked about having a natural resource manager, but that is in the same conversation of creating a specific division or team within our NDS team where you have the natural resource manager, you have the arborists connected together. What we want to do and what you're going to see in a proposal to you this year is a very intentional effort to say that we as a city are focused on our environment. For whatever reason in the past, whether we weren't large enough or we had other priorities, we believe the time is right now for us to dedicate resources to make sure that as we continue to grow as a city, that the environment is not left behind, that the tree issues, that the land issues, the water issues, the wildlife issues are all sort of prioritized in our conversation. And we believe that by adding those resources in NDS, our team, we believe that it will have a very, very impactful effect on our city, especially as we recover from the hurricane, which did a lot of damage to our.
All right, so that overall picture will come back later, how that would look like, what that would look like?
Yes.
Because I know we talked about using the tree fund to pay for 100% of the arborist's salary. Is that going to all come back later for us to have a further discussion about that?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
our goal, and I think based on the volume of resources in the tree fund, we would be asking for those resources to come out of there. That way, there's not an offset of cost anywhere else. And you would be taking money that was gathered for the environment to use on the environment. So we believe there's a natural connection there that would be very minimal to the impact of any other funding source that we're talking about.
All right, because I know you and I have had conversations about having somebody who is in charge solely for a comprehensive tree planting
Yes.
program, finally.
Urban
Yes.
forester?
And you said urban forester, whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Yes. Urban
But
forester.
doesn't get kind of, melded in as our arborists are. They're just involved with land development.
Correct.
We really need to have, and it's great that the city went from having no arborists to 3, but still, we don't have anybody out there digging a hole and planting a tree. So that's my priority, okay?
And we're going to paint a more comprehensive view on how we plan on taking care of that environmental need in this city. And I think we do believe the time is right for that now. But again, we also believe, based on where we are with our funding levels in that particular fund, that it would be a very minimal impact otherwise to anything other than that fund.
Okay, all right. And I just had to make sure I'm understanding your presentation there with the taxable value. I wrote down that we're in line with Longboat Key as far as taxable value. Did I read those columns? It's just when we get to the per capita because we have far more people.
Correct.
But our taxable value is almost the same as Longboat Key, because I know we always talk about them. I just was talking with some of those people the other day. Those people, I hate to say that. But people, I'm sorry, people who live in Longboat Key, and I said, we always talk about you guys,
Yeah.
that you're this whole little mecca by yourself. But that's where it breaks down, is that we have far more people.
Far more people.
To service, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And we really want our taxable value to increase. And, the more that it increases, the more revenue that we get into the city that's not taxpayer dollars, and that helps them out. But again, the growth comes with different consequences, and we just have to be very responsible as we grow.
All right, and just also to clarify,
I can
I'm sorry.
come back to you. I'm trying to do.
Oh,
like
go ahead. I'm
one or
sorry. Go
two
ahead.
per
Yeah, sure.
commissioner,
Yeah.
just to sort of keep it rolling, but
Mhm.
we can come back to you. Just a comment, I think it will be a lot easier to sort of get into the nuts and bolts after we've gone through that prioritization exercise. I think that would sort of give us a little bit of structure and feedback on where we are as a group. Quick question from me. Could you remind me what the effective millage rate is and why ours is so high compared with the actual millage rate?
So that is a calculation that we just came up with to factor in things like our fire assessment, our road and drainage assessment, those things that are not the millage rate, to say if those were a part of the millage, this is about what that would come to.
So it includes all of the individual fund fees
The
in
assessments,
our
yes.
tax structure? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stokes?
Couple of asks that I'm hoping we'll see from management staff, more of a high level focus. The first item, if we're looking at $500 million worth of infrastructure need and we're gonna break it into pieces, will we be seeing some good estimates as to what the cost of carrying, say, that first 150 million would be? Because if we go out with one or a couple of bond offerings over a period of years, there's going to be a carrying cost that's going to filter into our budget. So it'd be good to see that number. Two, general funds, we're basically looking at an increased revenue of $1.3 million from probably appreciation and property, which is modest. We need 4.8 to cover our general fund estimated increases, primarily salaries and benefits. So we're looking at a $3.5 million need there. It'd be good to get staff's and management's perspective on where within the general fund they might see us being able to chip away at that 3.5. The sustainability fund, we obviously were financially strong enough to be able to utilize a huge chunk of that to handle Ian's expenses. I'm hoping we'll see a specific plan for sustainability fund reimbursement. How much, from where, and over what period of time, so we can see it build back, because that's another factor in the overall budget process for us. And the final piece I have is I'd hope to see a prioritization of the capital improvement projects that we have in our plan now. There are some in there that are obviously going to have to be pushed down the road, so they're going to have to be prioritized. I'm hoping staff will bring that to us so we can see what your perspectives are on, what we're going to have to do without, where our focus is going to be. And that's really a prioritization of the pillars and where our dollars are best spent. But from a high level view, that's what I see. And I hope we're going to see those factors, because we can get into the weeds on departments and what's a department, what's a division, and we can talk about, what projects we've all talked about doing. But let's be real. This year's budget is all about saving money, rebuilding our fund, and focusing on the one or two priorities the city faces, which in my opinion are infrastructure and growth. Because we need to continue to keep growing economically so we can bring in additional revenues as the years go on. And we sure need to address our infrastructure and not kick it down the road. That's the end of my speech for now.
Thanks. Commissioner Emmerich?
Yeah, Commissioner Stokes brought up about the referendums and with the weirs and stuff like that. And we are looking at high ticketed items. Is there any way that when we're looking at it, instead of having two asks on the same referendum, because that's gonna be a big bite for the citizens, you know? If you're looking at $100 a year, whatever the case may be, and then 250 a year, they're gonna say, well, I can save $350 in my taxes just by voting no. Maybe coming back with some numbers on how we can offset some of those costs to get them down to where they're a little bit more feasible on that, be it surtax, whatever funds are out there, grants, whatever can be used, you know. If not, maybe split them up into 2 different election cycles.
Yes, and I think that that's where we were going for, like Mr. Speak said, when he talks about what can we do in a 10-year window, to get all the weirs done is going to take a multiple referendum process. But knowing that the police headquarters is an imminent need and the weirs needs to begin at some point soon, that's where we got the combination of those two. But we will explore the other options as you just referenced, and also to Commissioner Stokes' point, the CIP list will be a discussion of its own, and how you decide to reprioritize those or how that works into our infrastructure needs as well will be a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to assess the situation, make sure what are the most vulnerable structures that we have out
Right.
there, and if it comes in at X price tag, that's what we need to be going for, and then we can worry about the other ones. Police, again, is a high priority need, not just for them, but also for the rest of the city, as being able to have that building to house our departments or divisions as we go forward. So it is a need, and by doing that, it is gonna save us about $50 million in the long run, once we go that for properties for our employees, so. Just need to figure it out and come back with our numbers, and which way is the best way for us to go and the citizens benefit, to where, yeah, we're keeping the millage rate the same, but I don't wanna raise their taxes by $350 by referendums either.
Correct, because then
So-
you'd be saving on one and just turning them right around and
Right,
making
so
them
if we
pay on
go
the
through this process, we can whittle it down, you know, a lot better in the future.
as long as we all agree that the incorrect way to do this is to fix them as they break. That's what we don't want to do.
Right.
So as
No.
long as we can avoid that, we can find a solution somewhere in the middle.
That's all I had, Mayor, thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, and I will echo what Commissioner Emmerich was saying, that we do need to have 2 different referendums at 2 different times. I do not see this being plausible to do them both in November of '24. There is still time to do a referendum in November of '23. Yes, it's a special election. And yes, we always try to do an educational campaign. But in my opinion, the water control structures is the educational campaign, because Ian is fresh in everybody's mind, and it's much more doable to do the water control structures in November of '23, and then have the police department be November of '24. That way, then we have a whole year to educate the citizens on the need for the police station. But we still have to have that hard conversation. How are we going to pay for the weirs and the police station? That's the harder conversation. And again, echoing what Commissioner Emmerich said, if you're going to raise everybody's taxes, it's going to get voted down. So we have to come up with other ways to do this, because the people are hurting, they have been hurting, and they're in recovery mode just like we are. So, Mayor, if I may, I also would like to have a quick conversation about the fund balance policy for road and drainage. It's in the negative. Our fund balance policy requires that we replenish that money during the fiscal year, or another alternative. So I'm curious, when are we going to have the conversation about getting that money replenished, and how will it be replenished?
Yeah, and just a tag-along question, you sort of triggered a thought for me, is how does that money get paid back? Do we have to start making it whole through operating funds, or does it get paid back as FEMA pays out? So if we could just sort of combine those.
So Kim Williams, Finance Director. So what the fund balance policy requires us to do is give a plan by the end of that fiscal year. Once we go down below our 20, by the end of that fiscal year, we give you a plan for how it's going to be built back.
Or rebuild it back? There's an or
when I was reading it, it has to be replenished, or we have to come up with a plan to replenish.
Yes, and we were hit by a hurricane, so we're not going to be able to replenish it this year. But we will give you a plan for the schedule, how it will be.
And when is that conversation?
That's a part of the analysis that we're doing to give you more actual information on what's going on with the hurricane payments out. What you're seeing is what's budgeted, but we will be bringing an analysis that gives you more actual.
Isn't that plan heavily dependent on the reimbursement that we receive from external sources? Because there's no plan to come up with $45 million from this city.
Some operating
That's not the
funds,
plan,
right.
let's be clear. The plan would be to make sure that we and our staff, which has gone through, and I want to say that our first round of submissions just came back and said there was like 0 errors on it that we submitted to the government, which was awesome, to show that the plan is working from our team, whether it was through Val and Rostan, and that filtered down through our department leadership. The plan is working as well as it can. It's just outside of our control when we will get that money. But that is, I'm not gonna say all of the plan, but that's the majority of the plan. But I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Okay, thank you for that. Are you all set, Commissioner McDowell?
Well, I'm kind
For
of
the
on this, yeah, but on that same vein, you know, if I'll wait until the next round to talk about Hurricane Ian.
Okay. Vice Mayor White.
Yes, I just had a question about, in your presentation, you mentioned that taxable values went up 5% for this fiscal year. How does that compare to last year?
I believe the taxable value of 5% is just an estimate. It's a safe estimate of what we believe the home value increases to be. But last year, it was something outrageous. Yeah.
15 to
Closer
20.
to 20% is what
Right.
our team is saying. So, but last year was definitely an anomaly. We definitely don't believe that it will repeat itself.
So would it be safe to say 5% is more in line with what it usually, anybody would expect to see in any municipality going up, or what?
A little more conservative this year.
Yes.
Because we don't know what the effects of the
Right.
hurricane have been. I mean, we're still gonna have growth, we still have the new development, new construction. So we're trying to be conservative as
Well, yeah,
possible right now.
That's great. I was just, like you said, last year was a banner year, and that was unusual. So other than last year, what is usually around, or, I know.
Typically here, it's been somewhere around 10.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Thank you. That's it.
I have sort of a follow-along comment or request as Commissioner Stokes, and that is, I'd also like to see for surtax 4, spread out over 15 years, what's available after we fulfill our price widening. Nothing. So that's consuming 100%.
What I think what our team is trying to say is that the price of price came in higher than was even budgeted in the surtax. And that's just based on the estimate that we had when we put it in versus the inflation and everything that's happened since then. So there may be a shortfall and a gap that we have to cover from price.
After utilizing 100% of
Oh.
surtax 4.
Well, utilizing 100% of what was budgeted in surtax for that particular project. So it may eat into some other projects once we get the final cost of it. And then that will leave us in a question of saying, well, how do we fund the other projects that sort of got pushed down because of the new increase in price, which would then show you the picture of not only the impact of price in those projects, but what was left even below those that we anticipated funding in surtax for, and how do we get those done? Because we all know that everything that's in the surtax list is a priority of some sort.
Right. So I definitely want to see surtax 4 laid out over 15 years.
Okay.
How much is consumed on an annual basis and what the shortfall is on an annual basis. That would be really helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner McDowell.
Yes, so let's talk about the big elephant in the room, and that is Hurricane Ian. We have already approved a budget amendment of $45 million. That's on top of one that was approved previously. We keep hearing about this snapshot of how that $45 million is being funded. Haven't seen it. We're here at budget to talk about what we plan to do and projections and stuff for this upcoming fiscal year. $45 million is a huge amount of money. And in my mind, until I see that snapshot, that is kind of like unfunded. I don't know where that money is magically coming from. And that is a huge discussion point for me. And when I see that we have $1.3 million in additional revenue using the same millage rate, to me, that is not part of this fiscal budget. That $1.3 million is to help pay for all of the Hurricane Ian recoveries that are necessary. And I know you're not, I see your face and you're kind of not following what I'm saying, but I am extremely concerned with spending 1.3 million using these conservative numbers, knowing we still have 45 million out there that hasn't been allocated that I have seen.
So we were the ones who said that we wanted to provide you the snapshot so that you would have a good visual of what the financial implications of the hurricane have been. Director Williams can tell you about it right now, and she can explain it to you right now, but you're not going to really understand it until you see it. And it's not as simple as pushing a button and making a computer printout of it. It does take a little bit of effort to put it together in a visual way that matches her verbal explanation. So the $45 million, as we have said, that has been spent out for the hurricane, we are able to spend that out based on the financial position of this city and the cash flow of this city in its operating capacity that has been sort of planned for over multiple years. The fact that we can't show you or not showing you that snapshot today is something that we are working on throughout this budget process. And it should no way hinder your ability to move forward with making some recommendations on what you want this budget to look like, which is the purpose of the workshop today. The $1.3 million of added value that would come from the 5% is a number that will help us in our bottom line, and it is a piece of the puzzle. It is in no way being said that that $1.3 million is used to offset the hurricane recovery efforts. They're not the same thing, and they're not coming from a point of where one is impacting the other. As we talk about the $45 million and knowing that we're going to get X of that amount of money back, whether it's from FEMA or from the state, there will be a financial cost to this city from that $45 million. It will not be $45 million, but there will be a cost from it because we went through the natural disaster. And I don't think that it's a fair outlook on us right now to say, well, until I see that, I'm not going to be able to sort of go forward or understand the numbers that are being put in front of you right now. We have to be able to sort of understand that that process is going to play itself out over multiple years. It's not going to be this year. It will be multiple years of getting the $45 million back. And we have to move forward with making sure that we provide the services for the city and the citizens in a way that is responsible, which sort of leads us to all the other conversations that we're having. What are you doing with the expenses? Where are your other revenues short that you can raise? What programs are you going to offer? What do you want to see as far as different priorities and how you prioritize them and where you're going to find that money? The divisions to department structures, what does that mean for the cost? The millage rate, if we keep it flat, what does that mean? If we raise it 5% over the next 5 years, what does that look like? These are all conversations that we're going to try to have simultaneously to not sort of getting bogged down with the $45 million. If we were in a position right now that we were concerned about the $45 million and our ability to sort of manage the operations of the city, we would be the first ones to tell you. But what I would say is, and I'm looking at the finance director, unfortunately, if we have another natural disaster this year, we would still be able to move the operations of this city forward because you have put this city in a financial capacity to be able to respond to it accordingly.
So what I'm hearing, well, two things. Like Commissioner McDowell, I'd like to see that plan. I mean, for me, we do need to move the 2024 budget forward. I don't see them as contingent on each other, but I would be most anxious to see that plan. And then the other thing I'm hearing is that plan will be adjusted and updated probably on an annual basis as our different assumptions change. FEMA might exceed our expectations in terms of when and what they refund. They may not. So again, you're nodding, so I'm on the right track with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, we've yet to hear back from insurance, so we really can't put any good numbers in for facility rate related damages and recoveries. So we're
Right.
trying to get that number. We think we're close to having some numbers. And then we're also looking to end of this month is the end of the quarter. We don't want to have all of that information in, as well as the facility estimates.
And it'll be updated on a more frequent basis than annually. What we know today will change 90 days from what we know now. And these are some of probably what the finance team would call behind the scenes assumptions and changes that they make during every budget process. We'll just try to be more, have them more visible to you so that you can see, again, as I paint the picture of the snapshot, you have to know where the starting point is if we're trying to ask you to make judgments and decisions on where the finish line will be.
Right.
If we don't know where we're starting and we don't know, to Commissioner McDowell's point, how it all works together, then it's kind of hard to see where the ending is. And the ability and the desire to have the snapshot analysis was born out of Director Williams being able to explain it. But when she explains it, it's not the same as seeing it. So you really need to see how she says it, and that will help you with your decision making.
And then I would also expect that this plan would cover more than just the $45 million, but also the city's roof repairs and other building repairs, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stokes?
Yeah, perhaps to clarify for some people, I think the approach, and correct me if I'm off base, but, we have FEMA and insurance is going to reimburse some portion of between 45 million and whatever the ultimate cost of Ian ends up being. And then there'll be some shortfall, whatever it is, X millions of dollars. Will part of what you prepare for us include some generalized estimates of what our economic growth plan will do to generate some of that revenue? When you think of the projects, the development projects within our city, and there are numerous ones, from the 75 corridor, the hospital at 75 in Sumter, Mineral Springs, Welland Park, you name it, and more to come. They're going to generate revenues for our city. Some revenues will be earmarked for certain things, so they can't be utilized, but certain will. And that's part of this puzzle. People need to realize, as our city is growing, our budgeted total revenue of 212, 220 million is going to grow to 220, 30, 40, 50. Those dollars are going to play a part in this multi-year reimbursement of our reserves. And that's something people need to see, because that is part of the plan. I mean, it won't all come from FEMA and insurance, and it won't come out of, hopefully, the pocketbooks of our residential taxpayers. And that's part of, I think, what we need to project out there for people to see. And it's not something you can really nail down to the dollar. You can't do that. But it's part of the plan, and people need to see how we're planning for that and why it's so important we continue to build our infrastructure and build our economic growth, because we need that upward revenue growth to meet many of these obligations and our need to grow our city and keep up.
Agreed. And thank you for saying it's hard to pinpoint. I was going to say that, but thank you for saying that. It is hard to pinpoint, but we can put together some estimates that would show you what some of the impacts are for some of our newest commercial developments. And it's a good thing that we're at a time now where some of them are coming online right now, and we know that more would be in the pipeline. Economic development is not something that sort of moves overnight, but as you keep it moving, eventually it starts to pay itself off, and I think we're at a good point of seeing some of that. But we will definitely, because that sort of reiterates the conversation that we keep saying of why growth is so important.
Right.
We need to show the community and yourselves the benefit of having that growth in a financial sense that allows for us to have that conversation.
In a related comment, we have to keep in mind that our weirs protect 100% of the city, and we're only really generating real income from a third. So our costs are just sort of out of whack in terms of our revenue projections. Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, I just want to follow up. I think Commissioner Emmerich mentioned the 3.5 million shortfall in the general fund based on the salary CPI, and that's going to be provided as to how that's going to be made up.
I'm sorry, the $3.5 million shortfall in.
On the general fund key changes where
Oh.
you have, where we're only getting in 1.3 million, but these listed expenses
Yes.
equal 4.8.
So part of the process that we'll do and bring back to you is, as we sort of pull it all together, the answer is going to be a combination of hopefully revenues coming in higher than we budgeted and our expenses coming in lower. But the expenses coming in lower, there's going to have to be an intentional effort for us to make sure that we go in and sort of manage those in the best way possible. I don't think that we can sit here and just hope that revenues come in higher. We're going to have to look at some things and say, hey, what are we doing and how is our program looking? But that is going to be based on how you prioritize your priorities through the strategic planning process that's going to happen. Once we get that, then we'll know exactly what's important to you, and then we'll say the less important items will get less revenue directed towards them.
Yeah, we definitely have some hard decisions to make regarding the things that we do for our employees, for our citizens, and these are going to be very hard conversations because $3.5 million just on this page alone is a lot to make up on top of everything else that has to be done and that things that we want to have done.
And just a note on that is not all revenues. We didn't project all revenues. So we have other revenues that will be there. We're just trying to put it into perspective.
Right.
What our millage
Just general
increase
fund.
is compared to costs. We know we're going to have things like sales tax are not in there projected, the increase to those.
Okay,
So-
so maybe when we have our next conversation, I don't know if that's June budget talks, we kind of get a snapshot of all revenues, not just the millage rate. So thank you for that clarification.
I have a question regarding the communications reorganization. I want to make sure I understand it. So this 300,000+ is the impact on the general fund because some of those resources are currently being paid out of division budgets and it's just moving, or is that new costs?
Or other department, you want to explain it? Yeah, other
Other
funds, not
funds.
other divisions, but other funds that are not related to the general fund.
Okay.
But you will see, correct me if I'm wrong, like the year over year, when you have it coming from one year, you see the impact of it in the first year the most, but in the second year, it'll balance itself out because you're removing it from one fund to another fund.
So what funds are those costs coming from to the general
For the
fund?
most part, I believe it's road and drainage, utilities, and building fund, that those three positions are now coming into the general fund. And then the year after, we have the administrative transfer where all the other, it'll catch up with that the year after because the administrative transfers are based on actual costs. So I can't increase it for the first year that we're budgeting it. But once it becomes an actual the next year, then the money from the other funds to pay for that will increase. Or will
Okay,
cover it.
so back in the day, we used to call that an interdepartmental transfer.
Mhm.
So that can still be, if I'm understanding you, that can still be done, just not in the first year.
Yes, the transfer is always made on actual. We don't make it on budget because things could change and we
Right.
don't know, and that wouldn't be fair. So it's always made on actual. So whenever there's a reorg, there's a tiny lag.
Okay.
But
Got it.
Yes, it will be in the year after.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, along that same vein, and I'm sure that, now is probably not the time to get into the weeds about what this communications department is going to look like. But you had mentioned some departments will then become centralized, but I didn't hear all departments. And I would be kind of curious to know how many departments have like a PIO or a communications liaison, and which ones would become part of this kind of new structure. Because I didn't hear about fire department or police department or parks. And I'm just wondering, overall, the city, what this communications team looks like today and what the vision that you have, city manager, for the future, so that we can get a better understanding of that before we move forward with giving you the green light.
So currently, the police PIO reports to our communications manager, our PIO, Jason Barlone. Same thing with the impending fire PIO. They're already underneath him. When you look at the other departments like utilities, NDS, and one that I'm missing, Public Works, they have the community outreach coordinators that serve as those departmental PIOs, but they're within the structure of those departments. Those three people we are pulling to join this team so that they can be centralized in the communications effort. Everyone else was already over there. It's just bringing these people on board and putting them, housing them under the city managers and city communications.
Is
division.
economic development currently under the?
They were being served by, well, there was a PIO that was servicing, I think, NDS and economic development in the model that we had. So yes, their person is coming over as well.
I'd really like to see the chart, what that looks like
Okay.
currently and what the proposed plan is.
Sure.
Thank you.
On a related vein, a construct that we used to use years ago was sort of direct line and dotted line. I don't know if that's familiar to any of you, but I think that can be really helpful. Direct line is who reviews you and manages your salary and is sort of your direct line manager, but the dotted line are the people in the organization that you serve from a day-to-day basis, and they have input into those things.
Yes.
But, yeah, so I think maybe using that kind of solid line, dotted line might help us see how that will work in practice.
And currently we have too many dotted lines. So we are trying to remove dotted lines for straight lines.
For solid lines.
Yes, the dotted lines have created sort of a confusion in accountability and direction, and the size that we're growing to now, the straight line method will allow us to be more responsible and better sort of able to handle when the dotted line situations, when those people are out and you need someone to make sure that the work still gets done. That straight line method allows for multiple people to serve multiple departments over our enterprise as opposed to just having that dotted line.
But again, there is value with something like business management for someone to really understand the inner workings of the organization they serve. So I don't see anything inherently wrong in having a lot of dotted lines, just so long as people are really clear who they report to and who they don't report to.
Really clear. Oh, yes, ma'am. So the communications is moving towards a straight line method. The business managers are not. They are staying as a dotted line.
Okay.
That because the business managers, they are embedded within the departments. What we want is, as we, in our department leaderships and directors have quietly said they would like to keep the model the way that it is. So knowing that, we just need a better accountability of the dotted line to our finance department.
Right.
Because there has to be that link where they have the comfort in knowing that they have the adequate and competent and responsible people in those roles to make sure that it all works well together. And that's part of our process improvement process that we're working on.
Right.
But they are staying dotted line business managers. Communications, straight line.
Follow the money.
Yeah, always.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner McDowell.
When are we going to be giving some consensuses so you'll know how to prepare for your budget? Is that today, or are we going to be doing that at another time during budget workshops?
What are we looking for today is probably your question.
Yeah,
I forgot the direction you gave us last year, but I can tell you what I'm looking for. We've sort of outlined a lot of the little pieces that we're going to be working on. We know that we need to come back with the analysis that shows the balances of the money so you guys can get a clear picture of that. We talked about whether it was the natural resource manager, the division to department conversion. We can't move forward until we better outline that process and the cost, but we'll work on that. To Commissioner Emmerich's point, the points about the bond referendum, what does that mean? How much is it going to cost? How much are you going to ask for? Commissioner McDowell's point, when are you going to ask for it? What does that look like? We got to bring back some scenarios on that. When I look back at the surtax list that you talk about with price, what does that mean? Commissioner Stokes talked about the CIP list. I mean, there's a lot of different pieces here that I feel like we have to go back and work on, but again, that's part of the process. But I'm not 100% sure of the consensus that we may have been given last year. But the conversation today was helpful for myself and hopefully the team to know what you would like to see put in front of you at the next time that we meet.
And I think that if there are any of the assumptions that we've told you about this morning that you want something different, we would want to know about that as early as possible. Certainly opportunity here or in budget workshops to do that.
Like millage rate, I think I heard us all say that you would like to see a budget presented with a flat millage rate come before you, right? And the other low personnel, low initiatives, the headquarters and the weirs we talked about, and I feel like there's one more on that list.
And I think other sources of revenue, can we assume that with impact fees, we're going to go to 100% of that 2012 study? You know, if that's sort of outside the realm of this conversation, but that's something we need to talk about soon.
Well, and I think from our standpoint, we would need to put in front of you what that financial,
What it looks like.
what it would
Right.
mean, right?
Yep.
If you decide that. I know there's been more conversations about getting back to that former year number 100%, but.
That newer study, yeah. Commissioner Stokes?
Yeah, I noticed we are putting out to the community that the $100 budget program we did. Is that going to be, I'm hoping that'll be also something that city staff and commissioners participate in, because with the impact of Ian, it'll be interesting to see if there's any shift in prioritization on the part of especially our public and our city. I mean, leadership. That's important. And I know coming out of our strategic, and you touched on it, city manager, out of our strategic meeting, a couple of weeks ago, sometimes it seems like longer than it was, but in the most recent past here, and in that, I mean, we have 60, 70, 80, 90 priorities, broken down within all our pillars. Part of this process, I think, again, is we need to spend some time taking those, prioritizing those, making sure we know. I don't personally believe that priorities that have been carefully thought through, that there are any that we want to just do away with, although there may be some. It's more a matter of prioritization because we are going to have limited resources to meet those priorities. And there are going to be pillars, part of these 6 pillars, that are going to suffer and not get the revenue that they were hoping to get. And the truth is, it's not because their priorities are bad, it's just because there's limited resources to go around, and we have to, for probably the next couple of years, be very frugal in how we allocate our dollars, that's all. So this process, I think, is important because it will give validation to some of the decisions we make and how we prioritize.
And just, I feel a need to sort of add on to what Commissioner Stokes said. I'm of a mind, I mean, there are 2 ways to approach it. to try to sprinkle the money everywhere and not achieve anything. That's not the way I like to roll. I like to put the money where the priorities are and achieve some forward movement, and often that means putting other things on hold. And so we should be prepared to do that. I mean, it's not that things are going to fall on the cutting room floor, but they just might be delayed. City manager?
Absolutely, and as we all use the budgeting tool, and you hear and you see the feedback of, where some of the residents have placed their priorities, and you use that into your calculations of where you want to place the money. We also want to encourage the public to make sure that they attend our budget town halls and come out or at least submit their information on what they feel, because again, I can't say this enough, this year more than most years, we're asking people to think about a few years down the road.
Right.
We're talking about bond referendums, whether it's this year or next year. We're talking about millage rate increases that everyone is hearing us saying that it's going to stay as flat as it can, because that's the goal and the charge that you've given us. But I don't think we're all saying it's going to stay flat for the next 5 years. So if it's not, then what does that mean? And we need to hear from them to hear their understanding. Do they believe that, yes, if we increase it incrementally over the next 5 years, that's better than a huge jump in 1 year and then nothing in the next year? There's different ways to get there, but I think that we should encourage, invite, and include the citizens to make sure that they have a say in this budget process more than anyone, any budget process they probably included themselves in recent memory.
Right. And a follow-along question, and I think I heard Commissioner McDowell ask this question also. When is our next workshop? I mean, I definitely would like to have a priorities conversation with my fellow commissioners before June. So,
and I think you're scheduled to have, once you rank the priorities from the consultant, he's coming back to go over those priorities. Right. And then that conversation will influence the next time you see this team in front of you with numbers.
Great, thank you for that.
May I?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Only in keeping with some of the things you said about encouraging the community and the public to get involved in, and I saw the email that came out to us in the last day or so about a list of all the different workshops. There are a lot of them, and they take place at different places around the city. It's so important that people come and listen. I'm hoping that while this room is empty of citizens today, that there are many sitting online listening. But also, perhaps there's some vehicle for us to message out the progress we're making, more so than making it a reactive kind of thing where they've got to attend workshops, or we have a growing communications department, and I would say that this whole process, the best, as much as we can communicate outward on a periodic basis to tell people what the issues are, to get them ignited, to get them excited about it, to say, gee, they're doing this or that, well, maybe I better go down there, either because I agree or I disagree. And there isn't enough we can't do to involve them, because these are tough decisions. And there will be people, despite how many budget workshops we set up, will say, God, you didn't consult us at all. We didn't even know what was going on. Well, by God, we got to err on the side. And you guys have been doing that. So I'm not criticizing it. I'm encouraging us to do even more. That's all.
And I think that it might be our last one, Commissioner Stokes. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but one of them includes an online presence, or I think we did it in here last year. It was like a Facebook Live kind of a thing where people could watch virtually and then sort of be in tune as well. We would love to see 82,000 people come out to support this budget and know how important it is. In reality, that's not going to happen, but if we can make a virtual opportunity for those who can attend throughout their busy lives, we have to do so as well.
That would be great. Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, we were talking about long-range planning, and I understand the need for long-range planning, but that's what our CIP projects are for, is for long-range planning.
Of capital projects. We're talking about long-range planning of a lot more now. Your millage rate and some of the other things that we need to talk about in long-range planning are going to exceed what we do on a normal year-to-year basis for our capital improvement plan.
Right.
You can't sort of put all of the growth that the city is having into the CIP program. For instance, let's say the city continues to grow by 5% each year, and then we have to increase staffing by 5% each year. If you don't sort of project out how that millage rate is going to offset it, what you'll say is you keep adding staffing, but yet we're not getting more money in. We have to be able to have them sort of move along together in the process over the next 5 years. Otherwise, one will lag behind the other, and it'll create a compression of problems.
So, okay, so what I'm hearing is this year's budget will be pre-planning for future needs for staff and operations.
We want you to think about it. All we're saying is, if you keep the millage rate flat, the way that it is this year, and the way that it has been for the last few years, it's going to catch up to you at some point.
Right.
And when you
Agreed.
look at the slide that shows how low we are with our millage rate compared to others, that is a true testament of saying, hey, we have some room to grow that millage rate, but the citizens don't want you to grow it by 15% in 1 year. So what if we raised it by 5% this year? 5%, not when I say this year, not the year that we're in, because we've just been given the mandate to keep it flat. But for the year of 25, what if we raised it by 5%, 26, 5%? Where would that get us? How would that allow us to keep up with the growth? The growth that the city is having is not going to stop for multiple years. So all we need to do is just make sure we're being thoughtful in our decisions so that you can avoid extremely hard conversations every single year. If I were you, we'd be like, well, you knew we were growing. You knew we kept it flat. So why are we having a conversation now in year 25 about raising it 15%, city manager? Why did you not foresee this? Why did you not plan for this? And that's what we want to do. We want to plant the seed so that when our residents say, you kept it flat, thank you, we can also say, but we can't do that forever. I can make an argument that you could raise it this year, the millage rate this year that we're talking about, but you would say our citizens just are recovering from a hurricane and the economy and everything is bad, and we all get that, and we have the right sort of lens to understand that. But at some point, and I'm asking for that some point to be this year, you start looking past the budget that we're asking you to adopt and say, there's going to be implications that we have to prepare for. That's what we're saying.
Will this year's budget that you're getting ready to prepare for, will it have a designation that it's to prepare as opposed to being done this year?
No, it will. The budget that you will adopt will be in the same way that you've adopted your budgets in the past. What we would like to have is some footnote conversations to say that we discussed with the commission, and whether it's through, I'm not even gonna say a consensus, because you probably can't do a consensus for, something that's outside of the current budget year, but you understood and sort of gave, you blessed the direction of the foresight that we're trying to get you to understand.
Okay, so
That's what we're saying.
So the conversation will not necessarily have dollars attached to it this fiscal year?
That is correct.
Thank you.
That is correct. Right.
I
Thank
think
you.
one way of looking at it is really acknowledging that the decisions we make this year impact how things look in following
year.
years.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And this
nothing
commission
new.
has acknowledged several times in the past year or so that we're having today to grapple mightily with decisions that were delayed
Yes.
years ago. So what I see is similar to what Chief Titus has been doing with his budget, is we're going to do that with the general fund and our other funds so that we can see the potential impact of decisions we make today on how things are going to look in the future. No decisions around how things look in the future, but it's just giving us an opportunity to see the implication of decisions we make today on what the budget looks like in subsequent years. Do I have that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Any other questions or comments?
I just have a comment. I do appreciate that looking forward, finally, rather than right now and waiting for things to become an emergency. And I know those are sometimes difficult decisions to make. It's just like when you know you have to fix your roof, you really want to put it off, but eventually, you really have to. And you just have to make those hard decisions, how you're going to pay for it, and simple as that. And I really appreciate that we're being fiscally responsible and looking ahead and making those, what people would say are not good decisions when they raise the millage rate, but if it has to be done, like you said, little increments rather than,
One big
right,
gulp.
then that's what we need to do. So, and I know that we will have that entire plan put out there. This is why that's going to have to happen. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything else. I want to thank you, staff, for this presentation and my fellow commissioners for a really good conversation. I think we talked about a lot of important things. I'm very much looking forward to the prioritization conversation. That's going to be a tough one. So we should all come prepared with our chill pills as we have those conversations. But if there's nothing else from my fellow commissioners or from staff,
Let's talk about those priorities. Do we have a date for that yet? Did I miss that?
Mr. Thomas has not gotten a date back to us
Okay.
now, but I anticipate that we should have it hopefully by the end of this week. He said it would take a week or so, and that was a week or so ago.
Okay.
So
we
I'll
should
reach,
see it any minute now.
I'll reach out to him today
Right.
and see if
Okay.
he can get you an answer.
Great.
I just-
Assistant City Clerk, do we have any public comment
We do not.
online? Do not, and
Before you adjourn, may I just make one observation or statement?
make it quick.
I'll make it very quick. I just want to say for all those people and for the record, so if people listen to this, everyone should take great comfort that we have a city management and staff that is as professional as they are in times like this where we are facing challenging decisions. I feel, having lived here and watched for the past 6 or 7 years, and again, that's not a lifetime, it's not as long as most people in this city have lived here, but I have to say that I feel very comfortable that this group of people who are going to bring forth this budget for us to review are of a high enough caliber that this city should take comfort that we will get and produce a great budget. And it won't do everything for everybody, but it will prioritize our needs and it will keep us financially as strong as we've been. And for that, I thank you all.
We are in good hands. You might not like all of the decisions we make, and that's just how it is, but we're in good hands.
And Mayor, I
So thank you.
apologize for not being as brief as I said I would.
Yeah, Commissioner Stokes gets a bonus by the word. So.
Don't
Okay.
believe that out there.
So I think we have concluded our business here today. Thanks to everyone. It is 10:02 and the City Commission workshop is adjourned.
Thank you.